Hello everybody and welcome back. We are in X-Plane 11 again. Today's going to be slightly different. I actually got to go flying. So we are going to actually go flying. So we are starting out at the Air Force Academy Airfield, and I'm going to do everything as much the same as what we did for my actual flight instruction. We're going to be listening to a dead cat the entire time because it was interesting conditions to say the least. We had ceilings about 10,000 after it cleared up. Then we had 26 knots with wind shear, well, with a PIREP of wind shear, and it was gusty. So it's going to be interesting to say the least. You can see quite a lot, but you definitely get tunnel vision, so this is kind of a good replication of that. I have all the procedures. We are going to run through the procedures. So interior inspection, parking brakes set, dead cat's going, everything should be off, keys are out, flaps are actually up, all this is probably off. And I am going to use up here today just so that I can kind of get used to the fact that they're all down there. They're over here. We'll see. Parking brake is set, Hobbs, required documents, CO2 detector, which is something that I had never seen before. There's actually a CO2 detector up here to make sure, well, it's another tool for you. Mixture, auto cutoff, master avionics off, electrical switches are off, we just did that, circuit breakers are all in, manually run your finger, control wheel lock, there's actually a pin to remove, circuit breakers, control wheel lock, ignition switch is off. Primer, in and locked, there's a physical primer. This does not have it, but there's normally a primer that's right over here. Alright, battery, we're going to turn just the battery on, and we'll get a whole bunch of noise that comes up. Voltage light on. I have no idea where you find a voltage light. Alright, looks like everything's going to be over here in the sim. Oh, there's the primer. So everything's going to be over here in the simulator. It's windy and going a bit nuts. Anyways, voltage light on, avionics cooling fan, listen for it. Fuel quantity, check. We have 30 pounds of gas. Plenty. 30 gallons of gas. Flaps, set down 30 degrees. It's full on this aircraft. Landing light, check it, and then off. So we're going to turn landing, cruise time. I'm just doing it up here. We're going to turn the landing light, beacon, navigation, strobe lights on. Do a quick walk around, make sure all the lights are good, come back in, turn them off so that we're not draining the battery. We also wanted the pitot heat. Touch that, make sure it's good. Turn battery off. So we're not wasting anything. Check all the static sources. Elevator trim set for takeoff. It is rudder trim, neutral, not rudder trim, do we? Well, let's see. Fuel selector to both. It is on both. Normally it is on right or left because for fueling you want it on right or left so that you don't crossfeed. Into the lower one because it kind of sits cockeyed, so you might just fill up 100% on one of them. Left side, sump the fuel, baggage door locked, ELT antenna good, left fuselage and bottom are clean and good. Vertical stabilizer, checked, elevator movement, lights, VOR, rudder, tie downs, elevator, vertical stabilizer, horizontal stabilizer, fuselage, main gear strut, brake assembly, tire condition and inflation, and nut, right wing, nose, left wing landing gear, and then we hop in. That's where we currently are. So, brief passengers on seatbelts, fresh air vents, latches and doors, location of exits, survival equipment, and emergency procedures. Emergency procedure is going to be, in real world, the instructor is going to take over in any emergency, but if I am the one in command, then I'm going to On takeoff roll, anything we don't like, we're going to stop straight ahead. Immediately after takeoff, we're going to cut power, land on the runway straight ahead. Anything under 1,000 feet, we're going to land straight ahead. Anything above 1,000 feet, we're going to return to the runway if needed. Okay. Anything other than that, we will run through the checklist. So before starting the engine, seatbelts and seat flight controls, let's box it. It's a little easier to actually do in the real one. Check everything, look out all the windows, make sure down is up and up is down. Key in the ignition is in. Normal start, mixture rich, throttle pump it once, and then open 1/8 of an inch. Carb heat cold. Does this have a carb heat? I'm going to use prop as carb heat. Setting, prop's going to be carb heat. Doesn't have one, but we're going to treat it as carb heat just to get used to it. So in is cold, out is hot. Anything under about 2,000 RPM, we want to pull that carb heat out so that, well, keeps the engine warm. Primer as required. Normally that is 2 pumps. We're going to leave it. Master switch on. Propeller area. Before we get into the actual ignition, we are going to double check our emergency procedure. We have a hot start. Mixture is going to be full rich. Throttle is going to be pump once, open 1 inch. Carb heat cold. Master switch on. Prop clear. Ignition switch start. If we have a hot start, release when engine starts. If engine fails to start within 10 blades, stop cranking and allow starter to cool for 2 minutes. Okay, so we have to count 10 blades. And if we have a hot start, we have to do throttle 1,000 RPM. Oil pressure and suction check, and amp-meter voltage light check that it's out. This doesn't really have much of a hot start procedure. The other one did though. So let's do. Alright, standard start. We are going mixture throttle, carb, primer, master switch on, prop clear, open the window, yell out clear, and start it. Coming up. Fix that later. Let's run our throttle about 1,000 RPM. That'll do 2 things. 1, get us a little warmed up. 2, it will make sure that we are, well, it'll warm us up. And we don't stall. After engine start, PFD master on, pre-flight display. Avionics on. I don't know what a PFD is. Oh, center display? Maybe. Could be. Nav lights, only if it's nighttime. We are in inclement conditions, so we are going to turn nav lights on. Flaps, up. Visually check that they're up. Mixture, lean, about 1 inch. About 1 inch. GPS and radios, we are going to not use them today. Just because I'm going to be guessing where we're at and there's nobody else here, so I'm going to be hopefully navigating to the right place. Transponder set to altitude. ATIS and ASOS we're going to grab. We will say we grabbed them, but I know exactly what it is, so looking at that windsock that was directly ahead of us. In the real world, we're going to know that we're going to be taking off 1/6 left. Taxi, obtain clearance, and go. Toe brakes, check. Woo! That keeled us into the wind quite excessively. With a little bit of throttle, our toe brakes work, and throttling up so that we can taxi. And taxi given is going to be taxi via. We are rally 01. Actually, no. We are going to be seeing the airplane, but I don't actually know it right now, so we're going to be throwing it for now. Anyways. Clearance or announce on CTAF. We are going to assume we've been given clearance taxiway that way. I believe this is Delta, and you actually have to use toe brakes in this thing, which was a new experience for me. I wasn't quite as jolty as this, but we're going to assume we're Rally 72 because Cessna 172 Sierra Papa. And we're going to taxi this way. We're going to be cleared to cross this runway. I do need to actually look at all this info. It's a little easier to taxi in the real world while looking down, but it's terrible in the sim. Alright, we are going to be given taxi via. Really, you don't have. That's annoying. It doesn't have a good airport diagram. We are going to pull out our handy dandy checkbook. This is what we're flying off of. So that's gonna take some work. What do you call basics? Tower departure, non-tower departure. We'll get into that, and there will be lots of practice. What I'm looking for is a taxi diagram. Jeez. I don't see it, and our cat is dying over here, so go over, and it is dive away, I believe. I'm into. It'll hit that way, and it will cause pressure upwards. I have a diagram for it, but I don't remember, so I'm not going to train a bad habit. I'm going to leave it for now. We were given permission to cross this runway, which I believe is 13-ish. It was actually this sporty to get it over to the runway. That windsock is standing straight out. It's going to be sporty. Alright, this is the run-up area, slight left. We are being blown all over the place, so we do want to use those brakes. They're a lot less sensitive than the real one. We're going to bring her right. Taxi nice and slow, not going to run off the edge. Sideways. Taxi right on over here. And last time we took the second spot. I don't remember why, but the instructor said we're going to take the second spot. So we did. This is sporty with that wind. Alright, we're going to take it right about here, roughly thereabouts. And we're going to run the run up. So, brakes hold throttle at 1700 RPM. Quite high. The other one was... It's as high as it sounds. It gets really loud. Throttle mixture lean for max power. 1 inch was surprisingly exactly where we needed it. Suction and engine instruments. Good, little warm. Good, good. Vacuum, good. Amps, we are generating. Alternator, check. We turn alternator off. It doesn't have an alternator. But you do actually do the alternator check. You turn alternator off. Make sure that we get a amp meter negative discharge. This should have a meter. No, meter. Anyways, alternator, good. Carb heat, none on this aircraft, but we're going to assume we got a 150 drop. Magnetos, we're going to go down, drop in RPM, no more than 125. Back up, 2, over right, good. Back to both, 125 max drop and a 50 drop between the two. The throttle, let's go idle. Make sure it doesn't just die. Rough, but good. Back up to 1000 RPM. Make sure we have smooth engine operation. Idle RPM. Oil pressure is good, not too low, not too high. Mixture enriching 1 full turn, just for altitude. Flight instruments, check and set. We're going to be heading northish. Other than I'm going to pull this out a little bit, and we're going to hope that this has everything that I need in it. Pull the avionics on. GPS nav, set course, departure procedures. We are going to be flying out to saw, nail, joil, and knife. So joil is a set of water towers. Knife is up close to where we were going, but basically it's an almost due north. Not quite, but almost. That's our departure. Emergency procedures again. Slow, just cut it, land. Low, cut it, land. Below 1000, land straight ahead. Above 1000, we can consider coming back to the runway. Alright, before takeoff, landing and strobe lights are going to be coming on, but we are not there yet. So we are, make sure nobody came over. Whew, that wind in this tail. It was just as sporty. Pull over, and tower rally 1-2, ready for takeoff. 1-6 left. And rally 1-2 clear for takeoff, 1-6 left. We are going to turn landing and strobe on. Normal takeoff. Flaps up, carb heat cold. Throttle's going to be full open, check 2300 RPM. 23, oil pressure, airspeed. Rotate 55, climb 70. While briefing that, we would be taxiing onto the runway, make sure that nobody's coming left or right. We're going to do a regular takeoff. No sense in stopping. That just takes time, and we don't really have time. Well, not extra time. We are getting lined up, running up on the RPMs. It gets... Whoa! That was wind shear. Jeez. Okay, it wasn't that violent on the wind shear. Jeez. The hell? So, This is not realistic. I'm gonna reset that. That's not realistic. Alright, that's better. So we should be climbing at 70 knots. Roughly southerly heading, that's 800 feet. Let's make a left-hand turn. We're gonna be heading for the high school over there. We're gonna climb 8,000. 8,000? There's a high school over there in real life. I don't know if there's gonna be one over here in game. The high school is roughly over there. We go a little bit this way. I think we're just a little too. And departure altitude, it does not say. We should be trimming and climbing. We can have full RPM power-wise. Not a problem. Just making sure everything is just peachy. You have way more visibility than this in the room. Way more visibility. Can't hardly see anything. We did have to do quite a bit of crabbing. And this was a couple of minutes, but I'm going to cut it a little short, because it's realistically just time. This was actually about how it flew. It was mild turbulence. And the clouds are up there. I think we leveled off at 9,000. We're going to climb 9,000 and head roughly north. Was, in fact, just as sporty. It was kind of expected, but it was actually this sporty. And we're going to set about 22 for the climb, or for the RPM. We're going to do a throttle full open, climbing 70 knots. A lot easier to see field changes in the real world. Keeping oil pressure, flaps up, make sure. Yeah, I looked down for just a second, completely off course. We're flying roughly north. The idea is that we're using the mountains on the left, and that was 9,000. So we want to pull back to 2,200. Climb check real quick. Flaps, landing light off. Landing light off. A lot of trim. And quite a bit of work. So that mountain is actually our practice area. Just a little bit up. I don't unfortunately have any references. We are, good lord, but stop it. Doing 130 ground speed. That is basically what we were doing. It was really impressive. And it was about this hard to control. Just incredibly unhelpful. Okay. Cruise throttle 21 to 2700. We're going to go about 22. Mixture lean is required. Warning, proper leaning procedures could greatly damage endurance. There it went. Alright, that's about as much as we're going to get. Trim, adjust, we're going to be doing a lot of that. Instruments, we are on the warmer side, but not bad. Completely high on the oil temp. That's bad. Oil temp's not supposed to do that. Flight instruments, they're plenty good. We're using them a lot. That's our cruise checklist. We'll do descent and before landing later. Jeez. Calm down. This is roughly how the real one flew. So once we get to the area, we are going to do roughly what I did last time. And this is... Jeez. Like nuts. That's 25 over there. I believe this is 83. 33. I don't know if they have the road. There's 83. We are following it. Back up to 1,000. 9,000. This weather is pretty much what I was flying in. Colorado is not nice. The bumps you get out of it are they wreak havoc on you. They're nuts. Figure out where my box is, because I think that's 83 right there. Despite the fact that I'm short, we need to sit up because we can't see anything. Sure, that's 83. These are the mountains that kind of define our little box. They're a little excessive, a little bit, not much, or else I just don't remember it correctly. It is distinctly possible. Okay, once we cross this, we're gonna fly roughly inside that box that all those hills and mountains create, back up to 9. That tailwind driving me nuts. 109 knots. We're only doing 70. Ground speed's nuts on this thing. Coming back takes a while. Jeez. And there's literally nothing to do. Getting a little slow, I don't like that. Simulator's lagging. Not good. Alright, that little road down there is our south boundary. I-25 right there is our west boundary. And 83 right there is our eastern boundary with some radio stations that are up here in the mountains. Our north boundary. So we are going to perform 2 clearing turns. We're going to be doing a left. Do our best to maintain altitude. Gain if we're low, like we are now. Nobody here. Nobody this way. And we are clear to start our performance. So to start out with, we did a left hand and a right hand 360 at 30 degrees. So we're going to do 30 degrees, maintain 9,000, pull on the rudders, doing our best to maintain altitude and angle. And this wind is sporty, they're all over the place. I can see why people say mountain flying is so hard, why you don't want to do it in IFR. Flying just instruments is really hard. It was a lot of looking outside, looking inside, making sure there's nobody around, making sure there's all the instruments are lining up, not just getting destroyed by the wind too much, which we kind of did. And then roughly north, we're going to roll out, give it opposite aileron, opposite rudder, stop climbing, right hand turn, give a little bit of down because we're having a climbing problem, keep her roughly there. It's really juddery, so that's probably the wind gust. I gave it a 5-knot gust. I don't remember what the gusts were. I actually wrote them down on ATIS, so I can look that up too. Jeez. And this wind is nuts. Hopefully in future flights I'll actually have video so I can share my experiences, hopefully learn something new. Alright, those were our 360s. They did take a while, but not too long. What do we do next? I believe we did sharp turn. So, driving me nuts. Gotta trim a lot. Alright, so we did sharp turns, which is a 45-degree angle of bank. It actually took a couple of G's, which was probably the most surprising thing in this entire flight. Just that 45 degrees, turning, holding, and maintaining it, the hardest thing, because it's really easy to climb, really easy to descend. Well, really easy to descend, a little harder to climb. I would like to have brought a G meter, or just pulled out my phone and checked. I was very curious how many G's we were pulling. It was not the nice, gentle, simple CRJ 200 flight that we were doing before. A little harder we're descending. Oh, went too far actually. So we're going to go the other direction. Compensate a little bit. Because you guys saw the left, we're not going to hold the right. It was mostly just G's, making sure you pull hard enough, keep the nose kind of on the horizon. They go pretty quick though. Alright, we are going to turn a little bit more north. We're going to practice some power off stalls. I'm not sure this is there. Nope, it's not. The stall procedure is not in there. But the procedure was carb heat out, pulling power. As we slow down, give it flaps. 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 1 potato, 3 potato, and 1 potato, 3 potato. Pulling back up to the horizon, stalling, covering, full power, carb heat in. Woo! Simulator lagged there for a second. Trying not to lose much altitude. Roughly keep the nose on the horizon-ish. Our speed is just not recovering. Flaps up 1, flaps 30 is a lot of flaps. 60 knots, flaps up 2, and 70 knots, flaps up 3. Alright, so that is power off. I believe we still have a little bit of space before, about a couple more miles before we have to worry about the radar towers. Now we're going to do a powered on stall, which is essentially just pull back, hold the nose on the horizon, well, at about 20 degrees up, make sure to stay out of the clouds, and sometimes you have to force it. There's our stick shaker, pushing down, trying to keep it on the horizon because it'll usually recover with just on the horizon. We actually gained a little bit of altitude. We're going to make a right hand turn. That is actually the road that I think we were doing our turns on. So we're going to descend to 8,000. Take a quick look around. That actually looks like 83. And do a 45-degree turn to the left, descending. We're going to find a nice little road to do some S-turns on, which are significantly sportier in highway. Just to let you, in case there's any doubt. Pull the power back, so carb heat's on. That looks like 83. That also looks like the road we did it on. So you always want to set yourself up on a downwind. We are almost down to 8,000 feet. So you want to be low enough that you can actually see the road that you're trying to begin on. Start roughly over here. You always want to begin on a downwind. That's definitely not the road we were on. Probably about altitude. So carb heat and prop coming up. Road over here I can use. Not really. We'll use this line. Probably use that line. But we'll use that line. So you always want to begin on a base leg. We'll use this big patch. So, start really shallow because we've got a really heavy headwind, maybe 20 degrees or so, and we're now starting to really feel that headwind. We bring it 35, here we're pulling, maybe 45, can't quite get enough, but wings level and straight into the right. Really want to come all the way around, pulling, use that 45-degree angle bank, and start rolling it out. Not too heavy, but start rolling it out so that we can ease our way back. The idea is to have two symmetrical circles. And since there's a giant tailwind, you finish one of them much faster than the other. That looks like the completion of it. That was actually a real quick intro to what we were doing. That's pretty much what we did. So, we are going to do our best to fly the approach back. 8,000. We're going to hold that for a minute. I'm going to look for the right procedure inwards. That'll work. Knife 9,000, so we actually want to climb back to 9,000. So we're going to add power. Only doing 57 knots. Climb going. A joil is a set of water towers. That's what we were essentially looking for and flying towards, which I believe is at the top of that hill. So we're going to aim for the top of that hill, just to pretend that we have a procedure. It might be that hill. I think it was that hill. But because I don't actually have a nice, easy reference, it's making this a little harder. It was way further down. I lied. We followed 83 between that crest, and Joyle was on the right. This terrain map is not phenomenal. It doesn't truly map correctly, but kind of what you get. The simulator, but we can basically call out what we're looking for. Joyle, which 2 water towers, up by Baptist Road, I think it was, or Northgate. We were heading towards Baptist, and then we were headed for Joyle, which 2 water towers, which is on Baptist, and then after that we pointed towards the Vales, Knife, Joyle to Northgate. That's the Air Force Academy Northgate, and then alright, so we're at 9,000. We're gonna pull that power, pitch, power, trim. We pitch to maintain 9,000. Pull power back to 22. And trim it as needed. My arm's actually getting tired from that. Just the amount of motion going nuts. We're only doing 67 knots on the ground. We're not concerned about fuel. I'm just going to floor it. We're going to fly on down this way. We're just following 83 down for a little bit. This is hard. So we are direct to Joyle. And at Joyle we are going to descend 9,000 to 7,900. I believe we're about Joyle-ish. I'm going to turn to Northgate, which I can't see very easily, but I think it's over there. This is a bit more nuts than it was. I'm going to decrease the wind. It's pretty heavy, but it wasn't that heavy. It was a pretty slow flight back. Maintain 9,000. Trying to head for Northgate right now, which I can't actually see, so we're kind of faking it. But flying to Northgate sets us up perfectly for the overhead. So the overhead is 9,000. Let's actually have a procedure for. We're going to descend 7,900. Pull too far back. Okay, we're going to descend down to 7,900, Northgate. We're aiming for about 1,000 feet a minute, so let's pull carb heat, drop the throttles, trim. It was pitch, power, trim. Full idle. I don't think we need 1,000. Almost 79. Runway is over there. We're going to push carb heat back in, start slowly leveling ourselves out. I think we're a little too far north, but that's what I get for not knowing my distances. I'm guessing those hills were our descent point. Probably Joyle. So let's see if I can't pull up that overhead brake procedure. Not really a great altitude to be looking up these kinds of things. That one. So we're going to be initial at 75. 79. Descend to 75. 79. Down to 74. Then in the final turnaround, we are going to line up at the runway. Hope it works well. Geez, stop increasing altitude. I'm trying to get it to play nice. Oh, that's okay. We'll make it work. Don't quite see the airport. It's slightly right in front of us. In front of us looks about right. Huge headroom. Yeah, right in front of us. We did overshoot it just a bit. Looking for exactly 79. 79. Starting to line ourselves up, and it's not the pretty paved one, but the one on the left that we're going. Going for 16 left. Alright, 16 center is also not the pretty paved one. No, 16 left. I think it was left. I don't see the runway yet. That's it, all the way down there. I'll follow I-25. Not where we're supposed to be. We should have headed further south to hit Nails, then down in Doyle. There are plenty of radio comms, but I didn't do any. So just for this flight, we're not going to do radios. We are going to do our best to do an overhead brake, a Cessna, and then we are going to land on 16 left. Brake at 7900. About lined up with the runway. I'm going to try and keep that as good as we can. A lot of micro. This is super gusty, super windy. Apparently that's normal for Colorado. Slightly concerning, but normal. Which means the rest of the country is going to be way easier to fly in. We'll have the giant mountains hugging the landing zone. And right about here, we were going to call initial right at the stadium, which is on our right, and the tower said the tower is now closed, which was kind of amusing. And the airport essentially went from controlled to uncontrolled CTAF. So we still called initial, we just didn't ask. We didn't ask for the overhead. But that is A-okay. Square on the eyeballs. Try and make sure that we keep this. We're going to brake roughly midfield. And we're going to call rally 1-2 and brake. Going to full. No, it's not quite good. Carb heat, prop, both out fully. We are descending down to 74. Gonna do a fighter one here, and roughly that 45 off of our left shoulder is what we were looking for. But we're gonna go flaps 10. It's gonna want to come up. He's decreasing ton, not be decreasing that much. We're too close, but we are also right about where we should be. We're gonna go pull ourselves along. We'll call our rally 12 base. And we're probably going to flap to 2, be descending lots, then we're going to turn base to final. And if I remember correctly, it was carb heat on. A little bit of rudder, nice, shallow, gentle turn. Remember correctly, we were looking about 500 feet a minute. I turned in a little too early. That lovely thing of not knowing where it is. We are a little long on final. I think 20 on the flaps is going to be okay. Completely forgot the landing checklists. But it's basically landing light on, carb heats. And we'll see if we can pull it up in the time we have. Close this, open 61, 01 kilo. Not the time to be doing it. So, normal landing, airspeed 65, touchdown, landing, brakes. Okay. Percent mixture for that, throttle, carb. We're all good on all those. Let's just land. We're going to aim for the numbers. 65 is the speed we're going for. Flaps up, or 60 with flaps down. We're going 60. So, pitch for airspeed, prop for altitude are really high, but also really slow. Quite the headwind out there. Floating, floating, not floating. Not using any brakes, giving it a little bit of prop because we a little bit of throttle. We don't want to get off on this one. We want to take delta. No, delta. I'm gonna have to learn all these. But we're gonna take the next taxiway because this doesn't tend to stop quite that short. It rolled for quite a bit. It flaps up, so we stop getting lift. That's the one we're looking for. And pulling off to the left. Going where I went to clear at, I don't remember what we were clear at, but it's actually the building right there. We're going to pull off just past the hold short line, and we're going to run after landing checklist. After landing, lights and strobes are off. Landing lights and strobes are off. Flaps, nope, yeah, flaps are up. And taxi clearance to our announcing CTAF. We'll look out the window. Carb heat is on just to keep our engine nice and warm. Make sure EDT doesn't go too high though. We're going to balance that carb heat as needed. I did learn that if I turn the iPad screen off, it will not continue to record my flight or my GPS position. So I'm gonna have to look into if I can get around that. What these guys are calling the ramp is actually the fueling station. Here or here. Follow her in. Over to fuel. These lines are actually correct. There's just a fuel pump on the side, and that's actually the hangars and etc. over there. Where we park the airplane, pull up next to fuel, use a little bit of right tool brake. Only take about 1,000 RPM so she doesn't die. And let's perform the shutdown checklist. Down, PDF off, everything's gonna come off. Avionics master off. Nav lights, if used, off. We did use them, so they are coming off. +2 can come off. Throttle, idle. Magneto grounding, check, which is a hook all the way off. Back to both. Not all the way, but both. So, make sure it comes up. Magnetos are grounded. Throttle, 1,000 RPM. Mixture, idle cutoff. For to die. Off. Remove the key on something. Master switch, off. The battery. Honk at us. And then, don't necessarily need that. Apparently it doesn't really work, which is nice to know. Control wheel lock, headsets, cabin vents, close both. CO2 detector, make sure that we didn't kill ourselves. Take down the Hobbs, tack. Hobbs and engine readings. Sunscreen, install in the summer. Neat. Seatbelt, shoulder harnesses, stow, fuel selector, left or right before fueling. Remove personal belongings, inspect the tires, make sure that they're okay. Chalk it. Oil access door open in the summer. Interesting. Windshield clean. Tie downs install. Master switch verified off. Doors and windows closed and locked. Do not lock doors in the hangar. Only in the summer. Leave windows open in the summer. And checklist put between the seats. So that was a lot of stuff. We did a lot of stuff. We didn't do a lot of stuff, but we did do a lot of stuff. If that makes any sense. But hopefully you guys enjoyed watching that. That was a lot of checklists, a couple really quick, simple procedures, but a lot of just flying around. And yeah, that was startup, taxi, takeoff. A whole lot of wind shenanigans that I don't know for the future. But thank you guys for joining, and we will see you in the next episode.